What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our ACC football channel. We have our Week 6 power rankings for you now, and see some pretty significant changes here in this week's video. Number 1 stayed the same, number 14 stayed the same, but in between those two teams, we did see a pretty decent shakeup of the teams, and we're still trying to figure out what the ACC looks like this season, because it's tough. I mean, Clemson's really good, and you don't really know much else, and even Clemson struggled this past weekend. So let's get it started with number 14, and they've really hit rock bottom. I mean, does it get any worse than this for Georgia Tech? They are 1-3, 0-1 in the ACC, but they only put up 2 points against Temple, so their defense scored them 2 points. The offense did absolutely nothing. This is coming after this team lost to an FCS opponent in the Citadel, so Georgia Tech has really been a disappointment so far. A lot of people expected them to struggle this year. I did expect them to struggle, but maybe not to this extent. The offense has got to do something. They've got to figure out something to get going a little bit, because they have been awful so far this season. Number 13 is Virginia Tech, and I did not expect to see the Hokies in this position. They're 0-2 now in the ACC. They got destroyed by Duke on Friday night. I mean, it was a complete domination after the first quarter. Now, first quarter, Virginia Tech looked pretty good. They had a 3-0 lead. The defense was playing outstanding, and then Duke just got rolling and could not be stopped. Virginia Tech gets blown out by Duke. Duke's a team that we didn't expect to be one of the top teams in the ACC this year. Maybe they are, or maybe they're kind of a mid-tier team. Time will tell there, but this was an awful performance by Virginia Tech as they continue to struggle. Louisville up to number 12, and the only reason they moved up a spot is because Virginia Tech just looks so bad that they dropped down to number 13. So the Cardinals are at number 12. They're 0-1 in the conference, but I mean, there's a long ways to go. Long ways to go for this team. They've shown flashes of being a pretty good team. You go back to that first half against Notre Dame even. They look pretty good. So they've shown flashes, but still a long ways to go. We'll see if they can climb their way out of the bottom few teams here. Maybe get up into the number 10 or 9 spot by the end of the season. Right now, though, Louisville is at number 12. Number 11 is Boston College. They beat Virginia Tech in week 1, and I jumped them way up. But maybe that win wasn't as impressive as we thought. This team now is 1-1 in the conference after losing to Wake Forest. And you have to circle back to that Kansas game. That now looks like a horrible loss. Kansas got blown out by TCU this past weekend. So Boston College, a little bit of fool's gold early in the season. We thought this team maybe was a little bit better than they actually are. And now this team's back down to where I kind of thought they would be heading into this season. So BC is at number 11. Number 10 is a team that is coming off a pretty tough loss, and that is NC State. They come in here. They were blown out by Florida State, 31-13, a Florida State team that really I think was just waiting to explode. They've really struggled so far this season, and they finally kind of got those frustrations out. They finally put together a complete performance on both sides of the ball. This was a really good one. Alex Hornibrook has come in at quarterback and really steadied that position. Cam Akers has had a phenomenal year so far this season. But anyways, NC State, they are struggling right now, and this team has a long ways to go. They're 3-2. I don't think they're really near the top of the ACC. Just too much youth on this team, I think, is the problem for NC State. Miami is at number 9. They are 2-2 now. They had a bye week this past weekend, and this is a team that we really still don't know a whole lot about. They struggled with Central Michigan last week or 2 weeks ago. They played Florida tough. How good is this Miami team? I mean, we really don't know. They played North Carolina. They had a very close game there. North Carolina looks like they're a pretty good team this year. I haven't written off this Miami team. I still think this could potentially be a top 25 team. They really need to get it going this next weekend against Virginia Tech. Start to build some momentum, and who knows, maybe Miami can make a run in the Coastal Division. Pittsburgh is at number 8. This is a tough team to figure out. They've had their ups and their downs. They beat UCF, then they struggled to beat Delaware this past weekend. Again, very, very strange. I didn't see the game, so I really don't know what happened, but that's not a very impressive score. I did see that Kenny Pickett did not lead the way at quarterback. I'm not sure if he was out with an injury or what was going on there. We'll do a little bit more research on Pitt as they head into this game against Duke this next weekend. But for now, we're going to put them at number 8 after a lackluster performance against Delaware. Number 7 is North Carolina. A team doesn't normally move up after losing, but that's exactly what happened here with the Tar Heels. They are now 2-3 on the season, but they played a really tough schedule. They've played Appalachian State. They've had to play against Wake Forest. They've had to play against South Carolina, and that 1-3 in the conference I don't think is accurate, because that Wake Forest game actually was not a conference game, so I'm gonna have to go back and fix that. But anyways, they played Clemson really tough, took it down to the wire, had a chance to win that game with that 2-point conversion, so they showed a lot of fight. You can see Mac Brown's got this team playing totally different than they played last year. It's not that their talent level has gone way up, they're just playing harder and smarter, and this is a good football team. Syracuse as at number 6. They're 3-2 now, 0-1 in the conference. 41-3 win over Holy Cross. You know, they lost to Maryland. They were blown out by Maryland, and now Maryland doesn't look all that great. They've now lost a couple of games, so we're still kind of trying to figure out Syracuse and how good this team is. Perhaps they are nowhere near number 6. Perhaps they're a lot lower, or maybe they've just kind of got off to a slow start and they'll pick things up and be back to being one of the top 5 teams in this conference like we expected in the preseason. Now, Florida State is at number 5. We talked about them when I was doing the NC State ranking, but yeah, the Seminoles got it together this past weekend. They beat NC State. They've played a pretty tough schedule already. Remember against Boise State, they had that big lead. What if they would have held on and won that game? I think we'd be talking about this team totally different right now. They'd probably be in the top 25, might even be undefeated because of the momentum they would have gained from winning that game. But as it stands, Florida State is now 3-2, but still everything in front of them. They actually can pretty much control their own destiny in the division. It's going to be tough, obviously, with Clemson there, but Florida State's a team to watch out for. We'll see if they can build off of that momentum. Duke is at number 4, the most impressive performance in the ACC this past weekend. They blow out Virginia Tech on Friday night, 45-10. Their one loss, keep in mind, their one loss was to Alabama, so this team doesn't have a bad loss. They've put together some pretty good wins. They haven't played the toughest schedule so far outside of that Alabama game. But now they play Pitt, and that is a huge game, I think, in the division. The loser of that one probably not going to win it. Winner will be up there at the top of the standings. So huge game coming up again between Duke and Pittsburgh this weekend in the ACC. Number 3 is Virginia. They dropped one spot after the loss to Notre Dame. Still, I was impressed with this team. They played with Notre Dame. They proved that they are a very good football team. First half, or even at halftime, they had the lead. But they just could not quite get it going in that second half. Some turnovers really hurt them, and that'll do it to you when you have those turnovers. Defensive touchdowns can totally change games. Bryce Perkins played well in this one, though, 334 yards passing. He's not just a runner. I've been saying that. One of the top quarterbacks in the country, definitely in the ACC, and I still think Virginia is the front runner in the Coastal Division. But we've got to put another team up to number 2 because they're still undefeated. And that's Wake Forest. Wake Forest has looked really good, especially offensively this season. You're talking about a top 10 offense in the country right now, or right at that line. Jamie Newman, you can't say enough about him. He has been phenomenal this season. They hold on to beat Boston College 27-24. They're undefeated. They have a win over Utah State. That was a nice win. They have a win over North Carolina. This team, I picked to go 8-4 in the preseason. A lot of people question my hype for the Demon Deacons. Now maybe you understand why this team could go on to have a really good year this year. Wake Forest number 2, but number 1 is Clemson. Despite the struggles against North Carolina, there's no team to challenge them for that number 1 spot. If we had a team in here that was even 4-1 and had a couple of good wins and looked really good, maybe there would be a team that could challenge Clemson, but there's no one close to Clemson. I do not see them losing this number 1 spot. The only way they'd probably lose it is if Wake Forest was still undefeated and beat them head-to-head. I mean, that's about it. Clemson is going to stay number 1. They're probably going to go undefeated. They're probably going to win the ACC, go to the playoff, but they do look a little more vulnerable after that game against North Carolina. We'll see what it looks like for Clemson moving forward. You guys can give me your thoughts on our power rankings down in the comments below, or give me your power rankings. Rank them 1 through 14 if you want to. Again, do that down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on our ACC football channel.